Hey, we're live, pal. I'm Double G, back from Hawaii, and I want to apologize to everybody for us not having a show these last couple of weeks, but I think we'll be in much better regularity for this show. And we also have a special guest this week in our fourth chair. So first, let me introduce you to my dream team here, starting with Nick Gage's new best friend, Denise Salcedo. What's going on?
What's up, BTW? I'm so jealous of you that you spent 2 weeks in Hawaii. Meanwhile, I was just here in front of this computer. But either way, I'm so happy that the show is back. Can't wait to chat some wrestling with everybody here today. And yeah, I'm totally Nick Gage's new best friend.
All right. Are we? Do we have any footage of that, Andrew? Do you know? Or do we have any photos of that event?
Yeah. Do you want to see the video?
Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it. Let's see it. Let's see it.
Here we go.
With that game-changer wrestling banner blowing in the breeze, coast to coast and border to border. We're keeping it moving. Shout out to our friend Denise Salcedo. In a little bit,
There we go.
God, I had to lower the volume. I hate hearing myself, BTW. I don't like it. I don't. I
got to tell you, you did a tremendous job at hiding the cheat sheets, which nobody does. Everybody just blatantly holds it up and they pretend they don't. They know, they have no idea what's happening.
I had a trick, Andrew. You want to know my brilliant trick?
Tell me.
So I wore a green dress and I had green notes. The paper was green. So I used it to blend in the notes.
What a professional.
Hell yeah.
Amazing. All right, we're going to come back to this. This is not the end because I do want to ask you a couple of questions, but have to introduce other co-host here, the guy who's keeping wrestling blogs up to date thanks to aggregation, Matt Manzone, Andrew Zarian. What is up, my friend?
Listen, this is my new gimmick. All right? I'm just going to be like the Hitman now with news scoops. I'm just going to do this every time I release a new story. No, man, it's been wild. The last couple of weeks have been insane. I was sitting on a beach for about a week. You could tell by my color right now. I look absurd. I'm so absurdly tan. It's unbelievable. But I was doing some breaking news from the beach. What better than that?
Awesome. And so let's introduce the person who's sitting in the fourth chair, our special guest, yet another podcast partner of Denise, Wrestle Talk's own Luke Owen. What's up, Luke?
I'm doing very, very well. How are you all?
Well, we're very thankful that you're here so that we can get four opinions on this wacky world of professional wrestling. But I do want to go back to Denise for 1 second because obviously she was doing the ring announcing for the GCW show. Did you have a specific model or inspiration for who you tried to do this like, or did you just kind of go out there and do your own thing?
So, fun fact, prior to like COVID and lockdown and all of that, I was ring announcing for like a year, almost 2 years, like in the SoCal indie space and all of that. But when I first got started ring announcing, like I've kind of found my own method now. But when I first started ring announcing, I loved Melissa Santos. I thought that she's like one of my favorite ring announcers because she really put like a lot of emphasis into what she's saying. But kind of like as I did more and more events, I kind of developed my own way of presenting people. So, but I would definitely say Melissa Santos.
Very cool. That because you had the pitch and the voice and the long notes, and you looked very professional, I will say.
Thank you. I think a lot of people were surprised, to say the least. I don't think a lot of people expected me to sound the way that I sounded, so I'm very happy about that.
Good. All right, let's kick this thing off. So to paraphrase the great American philosopher Kelly Clarkson, since we've been gone, sorry, Denise, I didn't have a T-Swizzle lyric ready. there's been a whole lot of stuff going on in the world of professional wrestling, and I think we should probably start with the giant story from last Friday, I guess it was, with all of these NXT releases and maybe even a new direction for NXT. So I want to start with Andrew because, he's in the know on a lot of this stuff. Andrew, do you expect NXT to have a new direction, or is this just about talent? Like, where are we going with this stuff?
I think if they didn't have, I guess let's start off with the beginning of this, right? Obviously, there's a bunch of releases from NXT. Some of the names, it didn't really sit with anybody. It didn't matter to a lot of people, but some of the names on that list were names that you saw on TV regularly. And that was a little bit of a surprise considering, one was a part of a stable that just got put together with a big buildup for it. Obviously, if you look at this, it's an indicator of what we're doing today is not working in their minds. I'm paraphrasing here, right? If I was in that situation, what we're doing right now isn't working. Let's evaluate our talent. Let's evaluate who we're going to emphasize energy on and go from there. And obviously, they decided that these, they wanted to release some people. I want to be careful how I say this, right? Because a lot of things are getting twisted where, now they're going to go with big, giant, jacked up dudes. Everybody's thinking that now, that NXT is going to become this house of giant muscle heads from the 1980s. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see that happening. There's not enough of those guys around, because if there was, the entire WWE roster would be filled with those guys. I mean, that's the reality of it. I do think they are going to pivot and have, with the concept of less is more. And I've heard that from a couple of people over there and you have this problem on the main roster too, right? Let's say you have 100 people on this roster and you got 20 writers. What's easier to do, write for 50 people or write for 100? And I think that's the approach they're going now. They got very big, they got very bloated, and they had to be competitive from 2016 on, because in a weird way, NXT spun into something that it was never intended to be, and that's a mainstream television product. The goal was that it was going to be a developmental territory to let people improve, get them used to working on TV, get them used to working in front of an audience. And when you got guys like Nakamura, Balor, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, I mean, the list goes on and on. I can name them, 5 years worth of talent that came out of there. Those were not developmental guys. Those were established wrestlers with a big following. And they continued that path with guys like Ricochet and Bobby Roode and EC3, another one. And it kind of fell apart after that point. I don't know what the shift was on how guys like Ricochet didn't get propelled in a different positioning there, especially guys like EC3 that, big name from TNA, your big competitor, a world champion. So when those things, I mean, a lot of the signs were there where the wheels started coming off a little bit when they went to live TV on USA, and now they're refocusing. I really hope that this isn't a dismantling of the product. I don't expect that to be the case, but at the end of the day, you got to look at that P&L and you got to see what you're budgeting and if it makes sense for you. I don't expect all these guys like Tommaso Ciampa and Gargano to be over with. I don't see that happening. However, I do think they are going to take a new approach with maybe more, this is my own opinion, right? Pure athleticism, athletes, collegiate wrestlers, football players, runners.
Maybe a less indie style?
I do think they want to back away from that. That's been something that I've heard over the last 5 years, that we have to remove their bad habits, and it's easier to do it when you have just a clean slate and you don't really have a lot of these bad habits that WWE sees. They're moving away from the indie style. I can tell you that, and you can see it on the mainstream product also, on how they've shifted away from what we saw from 2016 on. Now we're in a whole different era of WWE, and this is the beginning of it. And by the way, this is not there are major changes coming to this, as far as, who gets propelled and who gets pushed and how they push. And I'm hearing so many rumblings from there where I can't report on it yet, but my answer would be there are major changes coming to all of talent across the company.
You had a tweet that mentioned how people are feeling backstage. Did you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I put out a thing about backstage, obviously, and nobody likes people getting released. But if you're talking about the last one about the networks and how they're reacting to this, I spoke to someone from the USA Network a couple days ago, and if you want to, I don't have the tweet. I don't want to misquote myself or the guy. I got to see what the exact words were, but pretty much it was like, hey, listen, yeah, we're disappointed. We've invested time and effort in giving this product a time slot, and I'm filling in a lot of blanks here, right? I don't have the exact quote, but essentially, we gave 2 hours to a product that it is not today. So when you don't have those top talents on that roster that you envisioned that you would, you are going to be disappointed. Now, it's not a matter of they're going to pull the plug or anything like that. It's just we're disappointed, and we hope that this corrects itself. And the same thing from the Fox side too. When they see releases coming, they have the same complaints because they are invested in a product that if your top guys, let's say we're talking about Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy's killing off a character. Guess what? They go through the network and they tell them why they're doing it and how they're doing it and what steps they're going to take to fill in that blank. I'm not too sure WWE's doing that.
So, Denise, you do a show after NXT. I do as well. My Fight Game podcast is specifically about NXT and AEW. So you're following this closely every week. You watch the television. You see who's over. You see who's not. You see who they push. What was your feeling when you started to see these releases on Friday?
All right. So first and foremost, I was also doing the SmackDown show that day. And I was, thinking I was going to come in and do my weekly SmackDown show the way that I normally do. And I'm, getting ready in between commercial breaks when all of a sudden I see on Twitter that Sean is posting this news about people being released. And I'm just thinking to myself, what is happening right now? And then the names just kept coming and coming. And immediately, I think the second I saw Bronson Reed, when I saw Tyler Rust, when I saw Mercedes Martinez, and when I saw those names, and Bobby Fish, I thought to myself, oh my God, are they just trying to dismantle NXT? This was very, very interesting because, as Andrew just mentioned, these were people that were having some sort of storyline on the TV show. I mean, come on, Bronson Reed was your former NXT North American champion. I had just done an interview with him 12 days prior, asking him about the rumors that he might be headed to Raw or to SmackDown. And now 2 weeks later, here I am talking about the guy being released. There's a big disconnection there. But regardless, I just thought to myself, what are they going to do with NXT? And then, all of these reports coming out about the new direction in which they're heading in. And it's kind of terrifying because, based on, the people that I talked to about NXT, what they like is, they like the in-ring product. That is what's gotten NXT over, is the fact that you got these people doing some great matches. I mean, how many times don't you have people raving after takeovers thinking, oh my God, that match, each match on the card just got better and better. And that's obviously because that style was working. Now, if they're choosing to switch things up and maybe not do, you can say, that indie style, I don't know what to expect from the brands. And here's the thing too, a lot of it kind of feels contradicting. And by that, I mean that, they were saying that they don't want talent that's, over 30 years old, yet a lot of the talent that they did release were young guys. Jake Atlas is only 26 years old. And, that's one example of somebody who I think had a lot of potential. And then, they're talking about the possibility of no more small guys and no more, you can say, larger guys. And I'm just thinking, what on earth? I mean, look at the people that got most over on NXT. You got your Adam Coles, you got your Johnny Garganos. Those are small guys, and it's it doesn't matter. The size does not matter anymore. But it's kind of terrifying, and I feel bad because regardless of what, right now, if I post something WWE related online, I will tell you that everything will be negative about it. But the thing is that people still wanted to cheer for NXT. People still wanted NXT to be a good product. There are still people that are devoting themselves to this product. So when you put on like a crappy show, it does really suck. And then it kind of makes it harder for those people that are still hanging on to hope. For example, like, I was kind of like not into the second week of Sci-Fi that they did. The episode of NXT wasn't that great, but the number one thing people were invested in was this Dakota Kai Raquel Gonzalez angle. But it's interesting how people were so behind Dakota Kai, interested in the story, wanting to see a new champion, and now it's like I just don't know what to say. I don't know what direction they're going. It's a little scary, and I hope that it's a good direction, but I don't know.
Yeah, and then Dakota Kai lost to, I think it was Aaliyah on Main Event, which is a TV show. So, yeah, who knows? All right, I wanted to get Luke's thoughts on this. What did you think about this whole situation that happened as we were about to start our weekend?
Yeah, it was like a Friday night. I saw the message. I think actually I saw it like Saturday morning, but like given all the time difference and everything. So like Saturday morning, I woke up and that was the news. And like I was, chatting with the other lads in the office, being like, "Do we want to do some extra news videos and stuff?" We had a news video going up that day, and Pete was doing the podcast with Tempest. And then I was on Sunday. I was building some IKEA furniture, and I was listening to Brian and Dave talk about this, and I just got a bit sad. Like, obviously, it's sad when people lose their jobs anyway. Like, that's always awful business. But then hearing Dave's report about how, like, there are these big changes coming, and we're changing the focusing, and I thought to myself, and I had like a series of tweets that I drafted and then deleted because I was like, I don't even want to put this. I don't even want to like talk about this too much. But I just started like thinking to myself, this was a product that I loved. Like, I absolutely loved NXT. When WWE was like the main roster stuff was real bad, I always had NXT to fall back on. Like, I always had that to be like, well, the takeovers are ace, and the weekly TV show, while not always like groundbreaking television, was a decent hour of television every single week. And it felt like legit, an alternative to the main roster, to Ring of Honor, to New Japan, and all this sort of stuff. And it was a great product, and one to fall in love with. And I think that the move to USA Network to steal away viewers from AEW kind of changed what NXT was. Or at least it didn't feel like the same NXT that people fell in love with 5 or so years ago. And we did a show on Monday. Ollie and I did a podcast on Monday, just kind of like recapping all of this stuff and, to getting our thoughts out there and everything. All of the messages that we got from our viewers, all of the ultra chats that we got in, were just people saying that NXT was what saved me from stopping watching wrestling altogether. And if that's not the product that it is going to be going forward, then I don't know how much I'm going to be watching NXT. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be watching WWE. Maybe I'll just go and watch AEW full time. So it just kind of felt like, honestly, doing the show on Monday was for like a mourning period. Yeah. And it's not even like it's not even like the big changes have already happened or anything. Or like, Andrew was saying, like, I don't think it's going to be a show that is just a bunch of lads that are all 6'8" and just look exactly the same. But I don't know if we are going to be in a period of time where we're having those every single match is this like 5-star classic. I wonder if we're moving away from that era of NXT, and that really, frankly, is just it's a bit sad. It's but as you guys were all saying, is NXT going back to what NXT was supposed to be, just a developmental product, not competition to Ring of Honor and New Japan. It was just meant to be to find the next WrestleMania main eventers. And unfortunately, apart from Rollins and Reigns, has it found a WrestleMania main event in the last, 6 or so years?
So, Andrew, I want to come back to you. I had a theory, and this theory came to me after I saw Karrion Kross lose to Jeff Hardy the first time. And I think we did a show right after that had happened. And my initial thought was, Vince is really mad that NXT could not beat AEW. And so thus, he wants to show his main fan base that NXT is really the minor league. So AEW didn't beat the major league company. They beat the minor league company. So to kind of discredit what AEW did and is still doing on Wednesday nights. And so when that happened, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's the case. And so when these cuts happened, and then we heard that Vince McMahon went to the PC and he was checking it out, I started to wonder, like, wow, I wonder if, Triple H and NXT and this, PC are going to take a little bit of the blame. I know that, you may have some thoughts and theories on it, but you also said you wanted to make sure you weren't reporting on it yet. But do you have any other theories as to why this thing may have happened?
I had muted myself. I thought I was a professional at this, but I guess I'm not. Yeah, I do. And again, this is stuff that I pieced together, but someone I spoke to kind of alluded to the fact that, like, listen, NXT is doing like 600,000 to 750,000 viewers a week, right? You also have two other properties that are very high paid for as far as the networks dumping money in. Would you, and we saw this happen when they, soon after they went to 2 hours, where guys like Matt Riddle, that's, at the time he was a big star in NXT, got taken away, and Keith Lee got taken away. Why would you put talent that you have hoping that could be a needle mover on a product that only, 750,000 people are watching? Those individuals that are over with the audience should be on a mainstream product. And that's how they're seeing this now. They're not going to keep guys like those days of having Balor, Nakamura, Joe, and all these, top level talent on NXT on the WWE network, where nobody's, essentially a couple 100,000 people are watching. Those days are gone. And this was said to me by somebody a long time ago, and I never really understood it. And it kind of makes sense now, where, and I've kind of said this too, when NXT was doing the block of four, the 1 hour blocks, 4 episodes, 1 hour block, 2 of them would be pretty good, and 2 of them would be whatever, right? But since it was an hour, it didn't matter. And since a lot of people would binge watch all 4 or binge watch the 2 weeks, you didn't really get affected by, there's continuity issues with the television show. This wasn't a good show, or this was a good show. You would kind of forgive the nothing shows. And it's very difficult to forgive it when you have a 2-hour show on a major network and you're trying to put it over as, listen, this is competitive against AEW. I think NXT's core on the way that it was built was done in a very specific way that worked really well. But once you moved them to a network for 2 hours, and now you're competing with something, and this isn't a NXT versus AEW thing, but AEW presents itself way better because they're touring. That's the single reason. I'm not even talking about talent. I'm talking about visuals. They're a touring brand, and they're in different buildings, and it's brighter and it's louder, and they're on a major network. They came across as a much larger production compared to NXT. And by the way, I don't think that's a fair comparison. I understand why people think that way, but I think at the end of the day, they realize why are we keeping big name talent on this product where only, it's under 1 million people watching it on a Tuesday, 700,000 people. Why are we going to do that when this is supposed to be developmental, while we could use those guys and focus them on the main roster and maybe move the main viewership up?
Yeah, and I think that is a product of losing the Wednesday war. You can now say, okay, that didn't work. Now let's change it maybe to the way that we wanted to change it before. But let's stay here, Andrew, because there's another piece to this story as it concerns Adam Cole. So Adam Cole, his deal, there was like 4 different dates as to when he was possibly going to become a free agent. And then it came out that he was already a free agent, but had agreed to go through SummerSlam. And now there was a story that he was at Friday Night SmackDown. Where do you think he fits into this, what I consider a crossroads with, here is what, here's what NXT has recently done. Here's who they've cut. Supposedly there may be a little bit of a shift in the philosophy. Adam Cole is one of the best guys of that previous philosophy. And does he stick with the company today, or what do you think his future is going to be like?
First of all, what a big mistake not debuting that stable on the main roster, right? You had a core group of 4 guys that were indie darlings, converted over to the WWE audience, and it worked. The crew worked together. Everything about that package worked. They should have been taken and put on the main roster a year and a half, 2 years ago. I think for Adam Cole, he's fairly a younger guy. He's in his early 30s. The guy has been wrestling for many, many years. This is the time. He should not be left in NXT. By the way, with that logic, Tommaso Ciampa shouldn't be left there either. If you're trying to propel these guys and make them into big mega stars, Gargano as well. But for Adam Cole, he's in the ball's in his court. I heard I think we've all heard the rumors about the meeting and the $1 million offer. I have no clue if they were actually legitimately offered him $1 million. We've all heard the same thing, but I have heard that the meeting went well. And that's about it. Now, I don't know. I know that there were some reports that there's no plans for him. There's no major plans for him. I think that's a fairly honest take on this, because I don't think they anticipated to move him to the main roster that quickly. I think this kind of just happened, and the ball's in his court, so he's trying to make this worth it for him. I think he should stay. As far as, improving WWE television, I think he would be a great factor there. They've lost Daniel Bryan. You need another guy to fill in that spot that's very much beloved by that type of wrestling community. If I would say he should stay, but he probably knows more than all of us, so I don't know.
So Denise, I know that you are a big PWG fan. And so you've seen Adam Cole even outside of NXT, and so you've probably been following him for longer than most. Now we're not picking sides. This is not, again. I feel like we have to say this a lot. I'm not saying AEW versus WWE, one's better than the other, but if you were to give him advice, like if he came to you and was like, "Hey, Denise, just kind of want your thoughts on what you think I should do," what advice would you give him in this decision?
I love how we are looking at the possibility of Adam Cole asking me for advice.
Oh yeah, come on.
But no, seriously, it really does depend on the wrestler, their outlook, and how they want their career to play out throughout the rest of their career. Because here's the thing is that you can stay in WWE, right? You can have that, for the most part, sure paycheck coming in, and you might not be creatively fulfilled, but you know what? You're on a big stage and, etc. There is a lot of pros to being with WWE, okay? But then you can also be that talent that can maybe take a bet on themselves and think, you know what? There is a lot more opportunity out there than there was before. You can actually have a very, very nice career outside of WWE. And, again, the number one thing that people have been talking about is that forbidden door, companies working with one another. So now, you can literally sign with Impact Wrestling, and next thing you know, you're appearing on AEW, you're appearing in other places. And so now it isn't just like, okay, well, you sign with this place, this is where you're at, and that's it. You kind of have a little bit more of that opportunity. But that's the thing, though. It depends on the wrestler. It depends on the talent. What do they want? Now, here's the thing as well, is that you could be in these meetings with Vince McMahon and he can be telling you everything you want to hear. And I'm assuming that Vince is going to be pretty darn good at convincing you that these things are actually going to happen. But are they, though, really? You don't always know that. And you've heard very many stories, very many different talents going through situations where they were told one thing was going to be done and they believed it. And then all of a sudden that never came to fruition. So it's kind of like, I think that everybody is different. And at the end of the day, it depends on what kind of career Adam Cole wants to have.
I think Garrett's muted.
We lost Garrett.
There you go.
Oh, you're
back. You know what? I made the same mistake, and now you made it.
But I made it after you already made it, so that makes my mistake worse. No, sorry, I had to get a drink of water. Okay, so Denise, you're basically leaving it up to Adam. So let's get Luke in to kind of give the last word on this thing. What are your thoughts on this whole Adam Cole situation, especially as it relates to the discussion that we just had?
Well, Garrett, you're a very polite man in that you will not say that AEW or WWE is a better option right now. Because I will say that. I will say that AEW is a better option than WWE right now. Like, I don't want to, I'm not going to, I don't know.
Personally, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. But I don't think that that's necessarily the same story for everybody. But in this case, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, and I'm literally just talking about this from the fact that I much more enjoyed their product than I do WWE's product. Khan Coin and all of this sort of, where you get on Twitter and all that. But like from an Adam Cole perspective, yeah, I'm sure that meeting with Vince went great. You know why? Because they don't want him to leave. I'm sure he went into the meeting and was like, "Oh man, I love you, pal. That match at Takeover, I thought it was really good, pal." I'm sure he said all of the right things to make.
He never
Adam
watched
Cole
it, by the way. If he did say
that, absolutely, he's never seen an Adam Cole match. But he's, "Oh pal, you did that thing with the kick. I love that." So he just said all the right things. We got all these plans for you, like Raw and SmackDown. We got these ideas pitching for you, and like, do you know what? I'm sure that Aleister Black had loads of ideas pitched to him as well in creative meetings. He had merchandise that was up for pre-order. A few weeks later, the man was released. Like, can you rely on that? Like, there's all these reports going around that people aren't sure of, how long they're going to be sticking around with the company because they could get released on any day. There's always that possibility there as well. Aside from that, if I'm Adam Cole, I'm looking at facts in front of me, historical facts in front of me, and the amount of NXT call-ups that have gone on to do big things, or NXT call-ups that have gone on to have really good runs, NXT call-ups that have gone on to have fulfilling runs. And he seems like the sort of guy who would like a fulfilling run in wrestling. And when you see how small that pool of talent is, do you think that you're going to be the guys like, well, I can be the one that changes that? I can be the anomaly that actually gets the big NXT champion push that people always want? Or is he going to get a IC title feud for a few weeks and then it's off to catering with you, pal, because you're too short? I don't know. Like, I just, like Denise was saying, I think there's more opportunities outside of WWE, but but I'm not going to, I don't think I would be the person to sit there and also tell him this is what you should do, because ultimately it's his choice. And, and people have said that he's very loyal to Triple H and to Shawn and everything like that. So maybe the loyalty will take over there.
Yeah, it's interesting because I wonder if those are the two guys you want to have in your corner necessarily at this time when it comes to kind of the stack ranking of who's in charge and who's in good favor. But he's got opportunities, and my hope, and this is what I believe about everything when it comes to free agency and pro wrestlers. When it comes to sports in general, I am pro player. Owners, a lot of fans will sort of do the owner worship thing, but I'm 100% about the players, because you should get what you feel like you deserve. That's your leverage. And if you want to, like you said, maybe I'm the one person who can, be the next guy with Roman Reigns. If that is something that drives you and the money is there, I will never say to anybody, or I will never down talk anybody for taking the money, because this is their livelihood. This is their career. This is, their body. But the flip side is AEW is paying real money for guys. So he should, my advice would be, use your leverage, get what you're worth, and where you think it's either money or happiness. And if you can get both, then you've won. So that would be my thing. But Luke, I want to stay with you because we are going to transition a little bit to AEW. When we went dark for the last 2 weeks, the CM Punk story happened. And AEW Rampage starts this Friday, and the following Friday, supposedly, I have not seen an announcement yet, though all the tea leaves are pointing that way. And for those people who bought all those tickets to that Rampage show in Chicago, he better be there. But what are your thoughts about CM Punk coming back after all these years and really being the drive to sell this show out in Chicago, which is just a random AEW Rampage show. We haven't even seen Rampage before, and this thing sold a boatload of tickets.
If CM Punk is not on that show, like, that is going to kill that Chicago market dead. Like, they are never running Chicago ever again. Yeah, like, it was kind of wild. I think Wrestle Talk has always had this long-running joke of CM Punk wrestling return confirmed, or CM Punk WWE return confirmed. Like, we always used to have this running joke because we always figured it would never happen, but kind of in the back of our minds, we're like, yeah, but what if it did? Like, what if that one guy that we always thought was never going to come back did come back? And we've all fantasy booked, his comeback and things like that. And it is pretty wild that we're now in a period of time where it's looking like it is happening. And I saw Sean put out something on Fightful Select that apparently his in-ring work is looking real good at the moment. So that fills me with even more confidence. As a CM Punk fan, as one of those guys that was just like, when 2010 WWE, which was like dead bad and all that, and I'm like, I think I'm done with this. I think I might stop watching wrestling because I'm not even really enjoying TNA that much anymore. There was always CM Punk, right? Like, he was always that guy that kind of we latched onto, and we latched onto Punk for Money in the Bank 2011. And I remember going into work the next day, and there was a guy in my office being like, "Did you hear what CM Punk said on Raw? That was real. Like, they didn't want you to hear that, but he said it." And I was listening to Wrestling Observer Radio and stuff, and be like, "Yeah, by the way, this was all signed off and everything." But it felt exciting and it was cool. And like, he is a guy that I think could potentially bring back those lapsed fans, those fans that left when he did. Whether, like, I don't know whether that is the case or not, but we're not sure about like what we're going to be doing reviewing Rampage and stuff, because it airs on like a Friday night, and it's like we've got SmackDown and stuff to do on the Saturday, but we're doing live reactions for it next Friday because we're real excited about this. I'm really excited about CM Punk return, and I just hope in my markiest heart of hearts that it's not rubbish. Like, if it is real rubbish, I'm gonna be real sad.
See, and I kind of want it to be not happening. I kind of want that show to end with nobody showing up.
I want to watch the world
violence,
burn.
Andrew.
I'm gonna be in Vegas. I'm in Vegas, so no. I mean, I'm joking here, but I mean, can you imagine though, Luke? I mean, can you imagine that the show just ends? They do this whole thing, and like, all right, thanks a lot, Chicago. Lights go off. Nobody shows up.
Do you know what we have done? Like, when we did the first All Out, we did our live reactions for that, and like, there were like no rumors or teasers or anything that CM Punk was going to be at the show, just some fan speculation. And when Punk didn't show up at the end of the first All Out, we had a load of messages from people being like, "Well, I'm never buying an AEW pay-per-view again because they lied to me. I'm never watching this show again because Punk didn't return." This time, they're very much telling you he's going to be on the show. I think this time people could actually turn up. If that show just ends and he's not there, like, I don't know, man. Like, part of me is just like, what would happen? But in terms of like reaction stuff, but surely he's got to be there. That's it. And otherwise, it's a terrible, terrible business move. Otherwise,
well, here's the thing, right? I would say even the loudest AEW detractors will say one thing AEW does well is they fan service. And this is, you set this thing up, he's going to show up, they're going to go crazy for him, and it is going to help their future business. Like, Andrew, you're going to be at the show, the following month in New York, and you would think that, and I don't think that building is completely sold, but they've sold a ton of tickets. You would think Punk showing up in Chicago gives those fans some faith that, oh, this is what happens with AEW. These big shows, something happens, and there will be more people in New York who may have been skeptical who are going to be like, look, we want to buy tickets to this show now when we were holding out earlier.
Yeah, I'm also going to Chicago, obviously, for All Out. I think, are we all going to be there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Cool.
we are.
Oh, this is going to be awesome. that
Oh
show.
man,
It's
Luke,
going to be
Poor
we're
freaking.
gonna miss you, Luke.
I've been warning you guys.
Oh,
I'm going to
I
be.
am not leaving this country anytime soon.
I'm so sorry.
Like at the start, before we went on air, and everyone was like, Denise, like, oh, I was a Game Changer Wrestling. I was like, oh yeah, I was on a beach in Hawaii. Yeah, I was on a beach over here. I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm just in Kent, just enjoying the rain. Like I ain't doing anything. I ain't doing anything exciting.
Yeah,
That is
I'm so sorry
sad.
for you. Yeah, that is sad. That is. But listen, a lot of people here in the country too. They're not really traveling either. But I just feel like, we cover wrestling. I've been doing it for 10 years now. So you kind of stop getting as excited about things because now you in your mind you're like, I don't want to. Like my whole thing is I don't want to show bias to any side, especially when I'm talking about it, because I don't want to sway the story with my opinion. I'll talk about my opinion, but I love wrestling. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. I just love wrestling. So when wrestling's bad, I'm going to talk about it, depending on what side it is. But I'd like to concentrate on the positive about pro wrestling. This is a very exciting time, even for WWE. I know there's a lot of excitement for AEW, but even for WWE, this is a very exciting time. There's a lot of changes happening to both companies, and it's going to get very competitive within the next 2 years. Everything we're seeing now is the lead up for a year and a half from now, 2 years from now, when maybe that gap is a little closed in. Maybe they're going back and forth on those numbers, or WWE just does something out there and really recovers and gains that disenfranchised viewer back. It's all on the table right now, and I think I said this and people got really mad at me. I said I don't think I've been this excited about pro wrestling since like late '97. And people got really mad at me for saying that. By the way, little plug here. I'll give a little plug. I'm not getting paid for this, and nobody told me. But if you want to know what an unbelievable year 1997 was, this is phenomenal. I absolutely love this. This book put out. It's a yearbook of the entire Wrestling Observer from the year. From Dave. This is 1997, and my God, what a up and down year. We're in that moment now, and I think a lot of people get worked up in the whole war, AEW versus WWE, and everything else. Just guys, enjoy it. This doesn't happen too often. This has only happened once before in the history of television, with two wrestling companies being so competitive and fighting and trying to gain people, and people leaving one company to go to the other one. This is as close as you're going to get to the late 90s. Boom.
But we do get it from both sides, though, because there's times where I'll tweet about AEW and then I'll just get a bunch of like, you're just on, Tony Khan's payroll. Then I'll tweet something about WWE and they're like, nobody cares about this. This is boring. Why are you tweeting about it? So like, I do see like both sides, like, coming both directions. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do.
It's the forum days all over again, guys.
There you go. There you go.
Twitter being divisive, that's not the Twitter that I know.
That's not.
So Denise, so we have Rampage this Friday, which, interestingly enough, AEW hasn't done a ton to promote that show. I think we know of Britt Baker versus Red Velvet for sure, but I think tomorrow, so Wednesday's Dynamite show, will probably be whatever they're doing tomorrow will bleed into Friday, and we'll have some matches in it. I'm guessing it's going to be a good show because they have to kind of kick off this idea of Rampage on Friday nights. But then you come back with Punk, and then you come back with All Out Week, and then we go to New York. Do you feel it's kind of what Andrew says, where he says he thinks it's the hottest? Like, do you feel the bubbling that he feels?
Oh, 100%. Like, this is when I feel like the last couple of weeks I've been starting all my shows with, guys, there's so much going on in wrestling right now. Like, you got the news side of it. You got the, what's happening on the actual content, on the television programming side of it. And then you have, just the personal fandom part where I'm looking at this, like, these next couple of months. And I just feel like it's going to be like, just so much happening. Right now I'm literally getting ready to, we got Triple Mania coming up. We got, the start of Rampage coming up this weekend. Then we got, the change with NXT. Obviously, we know they're not going to happen overnight, but it's still even exciting to see that. We're building towards SummerSlam. Then you got SummerSlam, and then you got everything going on with AEW, CM Punk, and just the fact that like there are going to be a lot of eyes on that August 20th Rampage show. And I'm talking like eyes, like not just like AEW fans, but like also the non-AEW fans. If I wasn't an AEW fan, I'll tell you this much, I would still tune into that show out of curiosity to see what was going to happen, what was going to go down. And there's going to be people rooting for it to fail. And there's just going to be a lot of different opinions coming from different directions. And then even after that, like you mentioned, we're getting ready for All Out, the New York show. I mean, it's really, and don't even forget Bound for Glory. And then they're doing the whole, they did that whole teaser, promoting like the Forbidden Door and working with different promotions and all of that. We don't know where people like Adam Cole are going to end up. So it's going to be a very, very exciting period of wrestling. And then on top of all of that, you got the return of live crowds. That within itself is kind of like the cherry on top. So I definitely feel that excitement, but I also feel heavily stressed out.
By the way, are you going to Resurgence this weekend?
Who, me? No, because Triple Mania is on, so I'm going to be covering that instead.
Got it. Because that's another show. New Japan America is running a show this weekend I think it's on Fight TV, and it's only $20, which is pretty cool. And John Moxley and Tanahashi is going to be on that show, so kind of a cool show, but maybe a little under promoted because Denise just went on all of these shows, and
exactly.
that wasn't one of them. And so it just tells me that it's kind of
and you know what's scary
not as visible. Yeah, go for it.
You know what's scary? We mentioned AAA, we mentioned New Japan, we mentioned AEW, WWE, NXT, essentially everybody. GCW. We have not mentioned Ring of Honor once.
No.
Right?
Or NWA.
Or NWA. And honestly, shockingly, NWA has way more buzz than Ring of Honor does.
Why do you think that is?
Really, just because of the Empower event, people are just curious to see what Mickie James is going to put together. But if it wasn't for that event and, playing on the angle of, this all-women show, I don't think anybody would be talking about NWA. And then Ring of Honor, sadly, has just gone, the buzz has gone down.
I got to tell you, I was in a building for the MSG show in New Japan. And
yes, me too.
I watching that show and the energy in that building, I turned around. I was with my buddy Josh, and we were talking. I was like, "This is it for Ring of Honor. This is it. I don't see them recovering because it was so much negativity towards the Ring of Honor product, and it was so positive for New Japan and Ring of Honor. Listen, Ring of Honor's been running New York since 2002. It's a New York product. I mean, I've gone to a whole bunch of Ring of Honor shows here in Manhattan. It was interesting, and that main event for the Ring of Honor World Title, who was it? It was Matt Taven, Marty Scurll, and who was it?
Is it Jay Lethal?
Maybe it was Jay. I forgot who else. Nobody cared. They were just waiting
can I tell
for
you
Okada.
something?
Yeah, do it.
I don't like to admit this, but I was at that show too. That weekend was so tiring that during that match, I needed to get up and walk around the building because I was so tired. And that's the main event. That's the ROH main event, right? And that was the match I decided to get up and walk around and wake up a little bit because, there was still some stuff left to come.
I was writing about that show recently for a Wrestle Talk magazine article on Kenny Omega, and I was talking about how I think from the Ring of Honor side of things, that show almost was almost sold out because of the buzz that Bucks and Omega and Cody sort of had, but then they weren't on the show at all because by that point they'd already got out of their New Japan contracts to go across to form AEW, and the reaction to that I think is pretty telling. I was reading lots of reviews, and it was yep. What a tale of two shows. The New Japan stuff was really quite good. The Ring of Honor stuff was really quite bad. And I don't want to dog on Ring of Honor or anything because, I think the guys and girls there are working really hard and putting on a pretty decent product. But Denise and I recently had on EC3 on our podcast, and EC3 did not know what show he was there to plug.
Wow.
And I don't know if that is if that's a very telling thing about Ring of Honor. But yeah, he came on and he's like, oh yeah, I'm here to promote Best in the World. Wait, no,
it's a very telling thing about Ring of Honor. No, Luke,
Yeah,
it's a very
exactly,
telling
yeah.
thing about Ring of Honor. I've had a couple of years ago, we had some top Ring of Honor guys on, and before the show, we are like, okay, what are we plugging? And you're like, hold on, I don't know. Let me check. Other than the pro wrestling shop, you know. But listen, we've and by the way, I thought Ring of Honor did some really good stuff throughout the pandemic. The series matches that they put together for the Pure Title, it was really different, and it felt it was very different than anything else anybody else was doing. So kudos to them. I just feel like now coming out of this, the fact that they're not working with AEW says a lot. I don't know why they wouldn't work with AEW, considering Impact has once again survived the nuclear bomb that went off for the 18th time. I mean, it's actually astounding how that company survives.
You can't kill them.
No, man. And you know what? I have a theory on that too. I think it's the international viewership and the UK following for Impact and TNA that propelled that company and like made it survive, because at times, I mean, the UK and Europe, they're way more into Ring of Honor, Impact and TNA at the time than people in North America were. People didn't really care, but everything I saw on social media was like, no, this is good TV.
There was a period of time, I think, for Impact where there was even rumors that they were going to become like a British company.
Yeah,
because
they should have.
They were so they were so popular over here. Like they would do like house shows in the States and whatever, then would sell like 100,000 tickets or whatever. They would come over here and would sell out buildings, big buildings. I went to so many Impact shows where there were thousands of wrestling fans because we were starved for wrestling at that period of time, and it was just it was awesome. And like I really do think there probably would have been a period of time where they could have become a British wrestling company.
You know what's crazy about Ring of Honor, just to touch on that again? Do you guys remember like the last WrestleMania weekend in New Orleans? I forget what the name of the show was, but they went head to head against NXT that night. I will tell you, I was there. I had an option between the Ring of Honor show and the NXT show. I went to the Ring of Honor show. That show had I think the amount was 6,000 people. And at that moment, it literally felt like the hottest thing in wrestling, where I was like, yeah, the real fans are here, that sort of vibe. And then it just kind of dismantled after that. And then, a lot of that had to do with, them putting so much, focus on, Kenny and the Bucks and all of that, and them branching out to do their own thing. Sadly, I think that is really what took a lot out of Ring of Honor, which sucks because Ring of Honor was really kind of always to me that cool place that I was like, okay, if I get, because for a very long time, being out here in the West Coast, I never got to attend a Ring of Honor show. It was one of those things where it was on my bucket list, I gotta attend a Ring of Honor show, and now it doesn't really feel that. Obviously, I've attended shows now, but it doesn't have that same vibe anymore.
Yeah,
it's
unfortunate.
Go for it. I was going to say, if I could say one really positive thing about Ring of Honor, though, I'm going to put over Shane Taylor, because that man is fan-freaking-tastic. I'm loving the work that Shane Taylor is doing. I just wanted to put a positive word out there on Ring of Honor, just in case we were going to move on. But hey, do you know what? Ring of Honor sucks. I just wanted to say one really good thing about Ring of Honor.
And them also putting the belt and Bandito was really smart too, because he's somebody that the crowds are going to get into. He's somebody they can have good matches with everybody, no matter who they put in the ring with. And that was actually a really smart move by them. So I'll put another positive thing out there about Ring of Honor.
All right. So next week, we'll be able to focus a little bit more on SummerSlam. So we won't do that here. We got one more week of TV for WWE before SummerSlam, and then we'll probably preview the Rampage show too, because that'll be the Punk show. So to end this show, what we like to do is we like to give our performers of the week. And just for Luke, our week goes from basically Tuesday to Monday. So from last Tuesday to last night, we'll let you go last so that you can think of who your performer of the week is. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to go with Chris Jericho. And here's why. I will admit I hated the Nick Gage match. Chris Jericho is such a cerebral wrestler when it comes to psychology, when it comes to setting things up. And to see him do the opposite of that match, I thought he was not good in it, but it drew, right? So we have to, the ratings were really good for it. And then he comes back on Wednesday and he opens the show against someone we haven't seen since like the mid-2000s on TV, Juventud Guerrera. And they do a crazy ratings number. So I will quote Jay-Z, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Chris Jericho is my performer of the week because for whatever reason, this guy is doing strong, really strong ratings for work that I don't even think is his best work, but he is a star and the fans see him as a star and they see him as so important. Denise, who is your performer of the week?
All right, I'm going to go with a totally different answer. I'm going to go with Dakota Kai. And the reason for that is she was the only positive thing on NXT last week. So that is why I'm going to go with Dakota Kai, because out of a whole entire show, all people can talk about was Dakota Kai.
All right, I like that one. She's been great. She has absolutely been great. Andrew, what about you?
So I had two. One, because we didn't do a show last week. I much like you, I was not a fan of the Nick Gage match. I got it. I thought that match was stellar, right? But I'm not a fan of it. But I'm going to give it to Jericho and Nick Gage for putting on that ridiculous match. I know that I'm skipping 1 week because we didn't do a show, but I did want to touch on that because I think it was ridiculous watching that on television. I don't think it'll ever happen again. I'm not preachy about this stuff. I love the 90s hardcore stuff. I loved. I was a big FMW fan of Wings. To me, it was so daunting to see, on live TV. But I have to tell you, Chris Jericho, the fact that he did that match like a lunatic was unbelievable to me. And the following week to do that match with Hoovy in a very different style, obviously a style that he does not wrestle in, hasn't wrestled that way in about a decade. He put on a decent match, and that finish worked. At the end of the day, because some people were saying it was sloppy, some people said there was missed spots. They were calling it in the ring. Fine, whatever. These guys haven't tangoed in a long time, and they did a decent job. I would say that was I would give it to Jericho as well. The other one is whoever wrote the line for Drew about that sword. I'm gonna say you are the talent of the week to come up with that ludicrous story and interjecting out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere that the sword is named after the mother.
Yes.
I give you credit because the balls you must have to possibly allude that there is a sword match that may happen. That's all I could see is a freaking sword match. And that last night, that's all I'm thinking. I had a couple drinks. All I'm thinking is, how are they going to work the sword in this match? Is it going to be a sword on a pole? Is it going to be a sword fight? Are we going to see, Jinder try to fight Drew with the sword, but his sword is wooden or his metal's not strong enough, so he breaks the sword? I'm like, whoever's working on that is the talent of the week. Because, God, I want this to be such a train wreck of a match with the sword.
Well, okay, so wait, so stay here.
Yeah.
Because now that you got me thinking, we saw a match where Rey Mysterio's eyeball came out.
Yeah.
So this is not something that I don't think if they did something where they're, using special effects or whatever, this can happen today, right? Because we've seen it.
Yeah,
we've
Drew's
seen them do stuff like this.
Yeah, they're doing the Highlander storyline. Drew's the Highlander.
Luke.
You got to chop each other's heads off, and that's it. It's a cinematic match. That's Vince's dream.
Yes, exactly.
Now
I see the vision now.
I want to add to this as well, because I want to add to this madness. The one thing that we have forgotten about with this great feud thus far is that it started over a motorbike. Could we do like a duel where they're both on motorbikes with the swords, almost like their Halloween Havoc monster truck match, where they're sort of like ramming against each other, but with swords as well?
Listen, you can do whatever you want. It's 2021.
Wow.
I would definitely pay to see that.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Luke, who's your
Get me
performer?
interested in this feud. Well, do you know what? So I've been sitting here thinking for a while. It's like, who is my performer of the week? And maybe this is recency bias. And if you'd have told me that I would have come on to a show that is part of Figure 4 Online and the Wrestling Observer, and at the start of this year, and I would have said my performer of the week is Baron Corbin, I would have thought you were higher than Matt Riddle on his
Fantastic
best day.
pick. Fantastic pick.
But it's like he's totally turned this character. Like, this character is working for Baron Corbin. Like, it's a lot of fun on TV anyway. But his guest appearance that he had on Raw this week with Drew, and that moment when Drew felt so sorry for him. So the ultimate babyface said to him, was like, look, buddy, how much money do you need to just like get yourself a meal and have a shower? And Baron Corbin looks at him with all sincerity and says, I don't know, $100,000.
Baron Corbin
legit
has
hilarious.
I died.
So yeah, and it's not often that WWE is really, really funny. So yeah, Baron Corbin is my performer of the week. I thought it was great on this show.
Gareth, do you
And he's
remember a couple
traveling
weeks
on
ago?
the production truck.
I think it was a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago. I think it was the first show that we did. I said that Baron is beloved. They think he's super talented. He's a funny guy. He's so liked, and that's why he's on TV. And this is exactly why. He's actually phenomenal.
He's really like the perfect Vince McMahon employed wrestler, right?
Yeah.
Like size, he does everything. I'm sure he's not someone to consistently complain, about things. Like, he seems to be like a really good soldier for them. And I feel like Baron Corbin has been vastly overrated the second he stepped into the ring in NXT. So much so that he might be a little underrated now. We've just seen him as this overrated guy, and it's almost made him slightly underrated right now. I get a kick out of him too.
Universal champion, poor Baron Corbin.
Also, it might just help as well that I think if I let myself go, I would look like Baron Corbin as well. Like, if I grew my hair out a little bit, I didn't shave, I would look like Baron Corbin does at the moment.
Halloween costume there for you.
It.
That's an idea.
Yeah, Halloween costume or mustachioed Randy Orton from last night as well. Where'd that facial hair come from?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's got a thinner version of what I've got going on here. But
He chose that.
If I
He chose
trimmed it
that
back a little bit, if I grew it back, if I trimmed it back a little bit, and I also got a hair transplant, maybe I could pull off the Randy Orton.
So, hey, this has been fun. And Luke, I just want to thank you for jumping on and hanging out with us. And also thanks to Denise for getting the last two guests now. Look at Denise, man.
Am I in charge now of the guest list? Like, I kind of feel well, I'll brainstorm some more.
She's just got juice. That's what it is.
You're on essentially every top wrestling podcast at this point. So.
I know.
Denise?
I'll just bring a bunch of people on.
Yeah.
Denise has
thank
juice.
you so much for having me on. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute honor to be part of this show. So thank you for having me. It was really, really awesome. Yeah, it was great.
Go ahead and mention where people can find you.
We are part of another YouTube channel, Wrestle Talk. We've got a bunch of channels there. We've got Wrestle Talk Podcast, Parts Fun Known, which is a bit more sort of like fun and fancy freestyle wrestling sort of essay videos. In fact, an essay video channel that Malachi Black recently put over because my colleague Laurie put out a video about the evolution of his character. Malachi Black said it was basically spot on and he was very impressed with it. So big thumbs up to Laurie in the chapter over Parts Fun Known. And I'm also on Twitter at This Is Luke Owen.
Excellent. So, Denise, what's your schedule like this week?
All right. So first and foremost, I'm like looking at the calendar. I'm like, oof. All right. It's a crazy week. Okay. But first and foremost, Speak Now Pro Wrestling here on the channel. You guys already know I'm on 3 times a week. However, today I'm not doing the NXT post show until tomorrow morning, as you guys all know, because I will be doing the Stars Heels red carpet in just a couple of hours. So that's happening. But tomorrow I will be on in the morning talking about NXT, and then at night for Dynamite. And then Friday I will be back for SmackDown, and I will also be covering Rampage on Friday. So there's going to be a little bit of changes, but you guys know, just come to the YouTube page and you already see all of the shows scheduled. Also, as long as you follow me on Twitter at _Denise Salcedo, I post all of the links up there.
All right, Andrew, what about you, man? What stories are you going to break this week?
I have no idea. People are getting a little. I have no idea. It depends what comes in and.
Please do. We need the content, man.
God,
yes.
you know how much pressure I feel now. I'll tell you that some of these guys though are getting a little nervous.
Our website will fail if you don't break news, Andrew.
God, I know, and you know what? I have more stress with this than my actual career, which is becoming like a whole thing now in my office. Where they're like, "What's Andrew doing? Is he working or is he doing the wrestling stuff?" Most of the time, I'm doing the wrestling stuff now. I will be in Vegas with Rich, my co-host. We're gonna be doing a Mat Men live from the Sapphire Day Club from the Sapphire Pool. Denise doesn't know what that is.
No, I Googled it. I do know what it is.
I think she
now.
does
Denise
now.
knows what that is.
I Googled it because you guys
Are you
all
coming?
had like the fishy eyes. Yeah, I'm gonna be in Las Vegas.
She's coming to the Sapphire Pool. We're gonna do a big.
It's a Sapphire Pool now.
Oh,
Hold
that's
on.
what No. We're doing it at the Sapphire
okay?
Pool. We're doing it. Denise is coming. She's gonna be there. She's co-hosting. This Thursday we'll have an announcement of our very special guest. I got to see if the contract is signed because he's going to be hosting at the pool with his wife, girlfriend. Garrett, wife or girlfriend?
I'm trying to figure out who you're talking about.
Trying to figure out. Is he married or
Oh,
is he
I know
dating?
who you're talking to.
Yeah.
No, I think it is his.
His
If
wife?
you're talking about, was
Yeah.
that a sign?
Yeah, that was
Okay,
a sign.
I think that's his wife. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
they may be there. I'm not going to say it yet because I don't know if the contract's signed, but I'm
We
hoping
had
that
a
they're
few
gonna be
different conversations today, so I was
We did.
confused.
Oh, we've my conversation all over the place.
I
So
just
wait. So
guessed.
this is for
Like
this is for
charades.
SummerSlam?
This is
This
for
for
SummerSlam.
SummerSlam?
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
yeah.
I didn't want people to show up like this weekend or something. and then
No. At the Sapphire Pool next Friday, the 20th, we're gonna be live there, doing a live show, doing a bunch of giveaways. I may do a big ticket giveaway for Observer fans. I may have a extra ticket to All Out.
Wow.
I'm working on it.
Ooh.
I'm working on it, and I will do a giveaway for the Observer audience exclusively. Mat Men and the Observer audience. So I'm working
Amazing.
on that. I think I do. I just got to double check it. So, but we're gonna be giving away a whole bunch of other stuff also. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And then obviously I'm doing Mat Men on Thursday. Next week we'll be doing Mat Men on Tuesday. Thursday we'll be in Vegas. Friday doing a live show. Saturday at SummerSlam. Coming back. I think we're gonna do a live watch along also on Friday night for the AEW show. And then obviously we're going to Chicago. We're doing the New York show. There's so much going on.
So much
you can follow
going
me
on.
on Twitter at Andrew Zarian. That's where you get
All right.
all the info.
Is the Friday night show, is that video or is that audio only?
I'm gonna do video.
Wow.
I'm gonna do video.
I think that's gonna be what people are gonna tune into.
Yeah, I'm gonna do video on Friday night, doing a live watch along of AEW.
Okay. So thank you to everybody for checking us out on the video show, on the podcast. For Luke, for Denise, for Andrew, I'm Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.
Thank you, everybody. We're still streaming live, but we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you. If you need a book idea giveaway, give away that 97 Observer. Oh, you know what? That's a fantastic giveaway, and I'll do that. 100% we'll do that. We should do that here.
I gave
do that
away
here.
one. I think I gave away the Kindle version on my show, like when it came out. So yeah. That book is legit. Like it's
Fantastic.
like 600 or 700 pages. It's crazy.
I'm waiting for
Are we still
01.
on
I
the
believe
air?
we are still in the air. We're wrapping up. Yeah.
Oh.
Bye, guys. Sorry.
I was like, what's happening?
Oh, you know what? I